I see a lot of people harp on King of Mars, and honestly, I don't know why. I hear that it's kinda boring, and honestly, I don't see it. The action's a lot of fun, and for once, Eustace is actually a decent villain. He's not trying to be too terrible until Jimmy pushes him too far in trying to stand up to him. Admittedly, he's not justified here, but his progression makes sense, and it's a lot better than, ew, I'm rich, I'm better than you. One of the things that people do like about King of Mars, though, is the Jimmy and Cindy pairing, and yeah, there's a lot of it. It does feel a little strange early on because you can't quite see where it's going or where it fits into the story, but eventually, it does get the plot moving and you realize that that wasn't just fan service, it was actually setting out what was going to happen later on, and I appreciate that. Good going! It does get a little melodramatic in the second act for my taste. Still though, at least it's not too long. It's very brief, 2 minutes at most. And the rest of it is a fun ride anyway, so why complain? Oh, I wish I was a llama in a great big llama world! I love that bit, and the rest of the episode holds its water as well. We get to see some more obscure ensemble characters like Butch get a lot of prominence. And again, similar to Party of Neutrons, the ensemble's what carries this thing, although Jimmy is on equal footing with them, so it really does feel like a whole team effort. I mean, yeah, it's baseball, what do you expect? It also has some Japanese jokes that are not based off racial stereotypes. That Godzilla joke especially was great. But one of the little touches I like most about the Retroville 9 is that they lose in the end. Because yeah, they cheated to get this far. It wouldn't make sense that they'd win. Even though Jimmy gave this big 1980s sports movie morale speech, they still got their butts kicked. That's both funny and a satisfying story beat. Well done, Retroville 9! Thumbs up to you! The evil beneath is great purely because of its villain. I love this guy. He's insane, he's loopy, but he's also really threatening. He turns all these people into kelp monsters, even though he's this complete lunatic. Carl and Sheen and Jimmy go on this big adventure, and it's fun, it's funny, but dang, this villain guy makes this episode. I wish he came back for League of Villains. I mean, come on, he's hilarious. Oh, Send in the Clones is a classic. The story goes that Jimmy makes a bunch of clones, but they're not perfect clones of him as they all have exaggerated personality traits, and one by one they make his life miserable. But they do it in all such unique ways. One of them is depressed and makes Carl think he's gonna be dust in the wind. One of them makes Cindy faint because she gets so full of emotion. One of them makes fun of Ultralord. One of them makes the grandma smile so hard her dentures fall out. Things like that. The story is really fast-paced, and it jams a lot into it, but story's not really what this one's about. It's about comedy, and dang, this one gets it right. Hypno Birthday to You is another classic, another be careful what you wish for story. You notice a pattern here? It reminds me a lot of the Fairly OddParents episode Christmas Every Day, although this one has a lot less story elements to it and a lot more focus on humor. During every one of Jimmy's birthdays, somebody's doing something and it's always the same and you can see how it slowly wears down on them. Except Sheen. Sheen could go forever. Top it all off with a pretty sweet and then ending in funny conclusion, and you've got a really solid episode. Broadcast Blues is an episode about nothing. Nothing but puppets! Jimmy trying to compete with Cindy and Libby on his public access show, it makes for a lot of really inventive, fun situation. But the best parts of this are Principal Willoughby and Sheen, with Principal Willoughby providing a lot of really weird jabs and meta commentary on public access TV, and Sheen with his crazy, weird puppet show going on. Oh, it's great. And it's got a really fun song in it, too. Jimmy and Cindy's competition isn't mean-spirited, it's them having different visions, and you know, that happens sometimes when you're forced to work with someone you don't really like. That prevents it from feeling out of character, which I appreciate. Something weird about Make Room for Daddy-O is I always forget how good this one is. Whenever I'm going through the episodes to watch, I always think, this one again, I don't know about it. But then when I watch it, I remember, hey, I really like this one. He was one of my favorite characters after all, so getting a Hugh-centered episode is a lot of fun. And we see that, yeah, he embarrasses Jimmy a lot, but Jimmy still cares. And that ending where they sing that duck song, it's sweet. I know it's funny because the song is really stupid, but you know, it's nice to see Jimmy get along with his dad. Crime Scene Investigation is Who Framed Jimmy Neutron done right. Not only does this have the same level of humor as Who Framed Jimmy Neutron, but it's also got a fantastic mystery element. It subverts you completely, but the mystery reveal makes sense. and they show you a good pool of suspects in 11 minutes, and you one by one weed them out. And it makes sense as to why they weren't the person who did it, but they do have some connection to the crime, so to speak. Take notes, Who Framed Jimmy Neutron? Crime scene investigation is how you do a mystery episode correctly. Technically speaking, Professor Finbar Calamitous is the main villain of Jimmy Neutron. Even though he appears like, 7 times? This, Professor Calamitous, I presume, is his main introduction. And it shows that even though he can't finish a single, sentence, he's a pretty intimidating guy, and his plan to get Jimmy to finish all of his inventions in order for him to take over the world is not bad. He was great as always, and we get to see some nice Jimmy and Goddard stuff. You don't get to see that all too much. Clash of the Cousins, oh boy. This is another mystery one that has a very good story going for it. See? Who Framed Jimmy Neutron? You can do this well and not have it be forced. Admittedly, the mystery isn't as strong as in Crime Scene Investigation, but the humor is much stronger. That and the villain is a lot more intimidating than a squirrel. It's Cousin Eddie. So yes, there is a genius gene going through the family. It's not only Jimmy, which makes me wonder, was Jimmy like this when he was a baby? I mean, I'm not talking about evil, but could he talk? Could he make all these crazy devices? I don't know. Also, I love Jimmy's family. They're insane and bizarre in the most perfect of ways. The Eggpire Strikes Back is an episode that, admittedly, I almost forgot during my rewatch. I was writing out the script and then realized, oh wait a second, I don't have this one on the list. Well, here it is. And honestly, I think this would have been a perfect sequel to Jimmy Neutron. Don't get me wrong, please don't make it longer, because we know what happens when Jimmy Neutron likes to blow out their stories. We get things like Crouching Jimmy Hidden Sheen or League of Villains. We don't want any of that. As it is, it continues the story of the Jimmy Neutron movie very well, it feels natural, and all the characters still feel right at home in their roles while still keeping their development that they've had as the series has gone forward. Very good job. I didn't think Jimmy Neutron was the kind of movie that deserved a sequel, but this is the best they could have gotten, I'd say. It's scaled down appropriately for TV, but it doesn't feel like some kind of forced conclusion considering the fact that Jimmy Neutron, the movie, was meant to lead right into the series, so it didn't have such a shut conclusion, so to speak. Foul Bowl proves to us that all is fair in love and war. Honestly, there's nothing much else I can say about this one aside from the fact that it's a laugh riot. The boys are not doing a great job impressing this girl, but what do you expect? They're kids, they don't know how to do any of this stuff. Battle of the Bands plays with the cliches very well. There's always that typical story of we make a band, we get big, then we all get conceited and vain, and then everything comes crashing down only for us to unite in the end and pull it all off. You know, the typical 80s movie kind of thing. Well, Battle of the Bands subverts that. Not only does it really make fun of all the cliches, but in the end, they don't win. They get 8th place even though there were only 7 acts. The witty banter is great as always, and Hugh coming in to remind them to have fun with it provides a nice capper. It doesn't take itself seriously because if it did, it'd be a season 3 episode. I mean, it'd be delving into those cliches it's supposed to be making fun of. Who doesn't love the nanobots? They're classic villains that honestly I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of. But considering the fact that we're number 31 on the list and this is the very first time they've appeared, you can tell that their episodes are often held in some pretty good regard. Fundemonium is about Hugh getting a new job as a toy designer, but because he's not really that good at it, Jimmy has to do it all for him. So I guess toy designing is on the table if, being a genius doesn't really work out for Jimmy. And the nanobots decide to take over the toys and design some kind of mecha death machine in order to, be the nanobots, cause endless trouble and get rid of human error. It's got a nice dark tone in the third act while still being fun and lighthearted. I know that seems a little bit like a contradiction, but let me tell you, Fundemonium pulls it off. Ultra Sheen is nothing but fun. Sheen gets to go into his Ultra Lord video game and fight right alongside his hero. Of course he would love that, right? There's also the running joke of Carl being really indecisive about what game he wants to use, even though they're, let's be real, kind of all the same game. And then he tampers with the Ultra Lord game, making it very, very dangerous for them to be inside. I keep forgetting this is an earlier episode because it feels really developed, both in the humor and story departments. Way to go! Attack of the Twonkies. This is probably the best action Jimmy Neutron has ever had. It's got a giant monster rampaging all throughout Twonkus 3, and then in Retroville as well. And I do feel so bad for Sheen. Yeah, he's not a good singer, but he just wants to belong. You gotta love the Twonkies themselves as well. They're adorable at first, and then at the slightest bit of music they have a seizure, and then turn into these awful monsters. I really like these villains, and I like that the third season also put these guys in little Easter eggs in every episode after this, because in the end, it's revealed they're not all gone from this world. Uh-oh. Sorry Wrong Era has a cliched premise of, oops, we went back in time, and now there's dinosaurs. But thanks to the Jimmy Neutron writing style, it averts the cliches and is actually really dang funny. I'm not even just talking about Leppy here, although Leppy is great, of course. Carl is great, Jimmy is great, Sheen is great, everything is great in this one. It's got some nice atmosphere going with it, but let's face it, this is a humor episode. Jimmy's trying to get them all back, Sheen is with the pterodactyls, and Carl is kind of goofing off while only somewhat grasping the seriousness of the situation. You know, if I were to ever think what would happen if these three went back in time, I'd say this fits perfectly. It all feels natural and they bounce right off each other. I love shows that can do that. You take any character, then throw them in any situation with some other characters, and they're so well developed that they can bounce off each other with no restraint. The jokes write themselves. Sorry Wrong Era proves it. I'd say See Jimmy Run was the first part where I knew this was going to be something special. This is the first time where every single joke is lightning fast, non-stop, and always really good. It's not like the earlier ones like, say, Brobot or Birth of a Salesman, where they throw out a few here and there, and most of them are good. This time it's one every few seconds, and they all hit their mark. That's what Jimmy Neutron was able to do, and this is the first one, in order at least, that pulls it off. And then there's Trading Faces, which has the same things going for it as See Jimmy Run, lightning fast quips and great characters. The only thing that makes this one above it is that it subverts the body swapping thing. Yeah, they are still trying to get back to their old bodies, but they're trying to screw each other over the whole time. It's a lot like Carpet Diem from Gravity Falls, but this one came out first. Safety First introduces us to the wonderful nanobots. They're trying to save Jimmy from this awful bully named Terry, which is a girl's name, by the way, I'll get to that. But then they take the safety stuff way too far and end up getting Jimmy to basically be the tyrant of the school. The nanobots aren't evil in this one, they're more just incorrectly programmed. They misunderstand their primary function, so you can kind of understand why they're doing this, plus it's hysterical. But the best part of this is Judy and Hugh thinking that the bully Terry is actually a girl that Jimmy has a crush on, and they jump to some extreme conclusions every time. They're a little overbearing, but they mean well. Would Mr. and Mrs. Turner do something like this? No way. Incredible Shrinking Town. Another one that I keep forgetting how good it is until I watch it. The atmosphere in this one is really well done. Yes, we're gonna go through this again. Shrinking plotline. It's cliched. Jimmy Neutron subverts it by having all the characters be really in character and bounce off each other. It has the same things going for it as Sorry Wrong Era, only this time has some nice story elements to go right alongside with it. One of the Standout extended episodes, if you don't mind me saying. Crunch Time is one that a lot of people seem to like, but I seem to like it a lot more than other people because of just how insane it is. Jimmy creates this candy and everyone loves it, so much so that they go absolutely mental to get it. And that's the crux of the episode. Seeing these people go literally insane trying to get this supposedly great candy. And the minute that Jimmy says, "Oh, I'm not making it anymore," they start a riot in 10 seconds. There's kind of this subtext of a drug going on here, like how they wake Jimmy up to get their fix, or how they'll give him anything he wants. Something you tend to appreciate more as an adult, I can say that. Journey to the Center of Carl. It has the same things going for it as Sorry Wrong Era, only the humor is even better. Especially the parents trying to cure their kids. Hey, Bubba Boy! Maternatron knows best, ho 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 boy. First off, the Maternatron being really safety-oriented reminds me a lot of the nanobots. My favorite line in this whole thing is, "You can't go outside, that's where the Civil War was held!" Jimmy and Hugh have some great chemistry here, and it never ceases to make me smile. No matter what, these guys are great. Throw in Judy getting to kick some butt at the end, and you've got a stellar episode. The feud is so weird, and I love it. We get to see Hugh and Mr. Weezer, two totally bizarre oddballs, clash for honestly something really stupid. And it kinda has a little bit of a commentary on human nature, that feuds are stupid, but even some really sensible people can kinda lose their wits and get down to the low level, showing with Mrs. Weezer and Judy. Sheen is hilarious as always, and the climax is a lot of fun. It's a must watch if you're going through Jimmy Neutron. So is Sheen's brain. If those season 3 episodes really wanted to push their atmosphere and storytelling, they should have looked to this one. It has the perfect balance of dark themes, but also lighthearted humor. It doesn't make it too edgy or overbearing or feel like a soap opera. It still feels like Jimmy Neutron, even though it does have higher stakes. Sheen getting turned into this insane megalomaniac genius, who's kind of like an evil Jimmy, not including the clone Jimmy, is pretty good to see. And there's a ticking clock going on. If they don't save Sheen in time, his head will explode. It's a classic for a reason. Remember how I said Hugh was one of my favorite characters? Well, this one's all about him, and it's him on full display. He's on his A game the whole time, trying to prove he's not a bad camper, he knows what he's doing, and everything is Jimmy's fault. And it's not mean-spirited either. That's something I appreciate about this episode. Wilderness, yeah, kinda beats down on Jimmy a little bit, but it also shows that Hugh's only doing it because he feels really insecure about himself, and he's trying so hard to seem like a hero to these guys. And in the end, he makes up for it all. And hey, he brought us a lot of great laughs along the way, so you can't stay mad at him. The Junkman Cometh is another one that has a really good story going for it, and a great villain. The Junkman is a charismatic evildoer, and he's got a great design. And hey, Brobot comes back, and it's not to annoy Jimmy this time, it's because he's actually in some dire danger. Great space adventure to be sure. Grumpy young men. Jimmy, Carl, and Sheen turn old, and that's the premise. It's another one of those where you throw the characters into a weird situation and have them just go. Every possible old joke you could think of, they tell it, but they don't go with the cliched, ooh my hip, oh I can't remember things. What they do here is stretch it to an unbelievably ridiculous level that you can't help but gawk at it. And that's what makes it so high on this list. Maximum Hugh is the combination of the episode we just talked about and Make Room for Daddy-O. It shows that Hugh really cares about Jimmy, shows that Jimmy and Hugh have a good bond, but it's also gut-bustingly hilarious. Yeah, it's a sports episode, so they gotta have those cliches there, but once again, they stretch it out to an unbelievably ridiculous level, like how literally everyone except the Weezers cheated. Sheen brought a hobo as his dad instead of his actual dad because his dad was too busy. It's so crazy and so bizarre, you can't help but get swept up right along for the ride. Now, The Eggpire Strikes Back wasn't the only episode I forgot about on this rewatch. There was also Monster Hunt, because it's paired with Jimmy for President, and I thought, yeah, I already know that one's great. I saw that one a little bit before this rewatch, I don't need to go back and watch it. But then I remembered, oh wait, Monster Hunt. Yeah, because I don't remember this episode, it's probably gonna be mid-tier, kinda lower. But no, this one was way better than I remembered. What makes this one stand out? Well, I'll tell you. It has that same Jimmy Neutron fast quip, non-stop, lightning-fast jokes that every single one hits, but it's done in a way that's different from the others. How so, you may ask? Because nobody ever pays attention to it. I'm not talking about this episode getting overlooked per se, I'm talking about how it's joke, 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 joke. It's not joke and then it comes back later, or joke and then it leads to another joke. All the jokes are on their own. They're their own isolated little island, and it's so rapid fire that it's hard to keep track of them all, in a good way. The captain is also great, I love this guy. His inane ramblings are hysterical. Sheen being so excited to go out onto the sea, and Snappy's relationship with Carl is kind of adorable. Honestly, one of the more underrated episodes of Jimmy Neutron. Nightmare in Retroville is something really special. Yeah, it's got blood, but let's move on from that. Look at all the horror references they got in here. Tons of monsters, and the lore, they really did their homework on this. And Octopus Man's a fun original addition. The night atmosphere in Retroville really helps set the scene, and that makes it a really interesting, gripping tale. Especially because, yeah, he's trying to stop the monsters, but he's also trying to save the monsters because they're his friends. And Dad, too. You can tell the voice actors had a lot of fun doing this because Carl gets to be a vampire, Sheen gets to be a werewolf, Hugh gets to be Frankenstein. They play homage to a lot of the original lore while also doing their own thing, and even though they're in their monster form, they're still in character, showing that they're not entirely gone yet. In my opinion, this is one of the best Halloween episodes a Nickelodeon show has ever done. Lady Sings the News is one that I feel should get a lot more attention. It was towards the end of the show too, and this aired when the ratings were basically in the toilet, so a lot of people didn't pay attention to it. But Carl is on fire. There's some great Jimmy and Cindy moments here, and again, it's so absurd and ridiculous you can't help but laugh at it all the time. You throw these characters into a news setting. What do? They totally bounce off each other and do their own crazy thing. Jimmy and Cindy are actually competent as news anchors. Libby goes fame hungry. Carl is Carl doing the weather, and Sheen doesn't really know what he's doing for sports, so he decides to play action figures. It all makes sense. That, and it's also got a nice little, hey, gossip sucks, it ruins people's lives message, while also not being too preachy and really funny. The End-Men is a very epic Jimmy Neutron episode, and I never use that term lightly, if I ever even use it at all. This is about as serious as I'd like a Jimmy Neutron episode to be. It takes the characters, it explores some depth with them and their camaraderie and chemistry, but it never loses sight of what it truly is. It's a comedy. It's Jimmy Neutron, above all things. It has a certain style that it's supposed to stick to, and the End-Men does that, or should I call this episode, The Fantastic League of Justice-Bringing Avenging Men! And 2 girls. And now we get to the top 10 with Lights, Camera, Danger. Yes, Donut Boy is fantastic and is easily the best part of this episode, but there's way more than that. All these movie references. The Matrix, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, E.T., even the Jimmy Neutron movie. They cram tons of stuff in here. And it's not done in a way where you have to know the source material to think it's funny. It's funny on its own, but it's even funnier when you know what it's supposed to be. Even Donut Boy is a reference to Shaft, and I didn't realize that until I watched it for this marathon. The villain's plan is so ridiculous and nonsensical, but it also in a way kinda makes sense. As someone who loves movies and TV, this episode is right up my alley, and hey, if you're watching this, I'm pretty sure it's up yours too. Don't take that out of context, please. That could get me in trouble. Carl Wheezer, Boy Genius. I've always loved this one. In fact, when I was a little kid, this was my favorite episode. Now it's number 9, but that doesn't mean it's anything to sneeze at. Yeah, Carl's a jerk here, but you know what I see this as? I see it as a better version of I'm with Stupid. Carl's a jerk here, but that's mostly because he's kind of written himself into a corner. Because he's already told these long, elaborate lies of how Jimmy's his dim-witted assistant and Sheen is his crazy monkey experiment that went horribly wrong, and Carl's trying to feel like the big man to impress a girl. And above all, he's a kid. You can kind of understand him behaving like this. Sure, he's a jerk, but Jimmy's not taking any of it. He's not like SpongeBob where he's getting pushed around and getting upset. He's barking right back at Carl and begrudgingly going along because, above all, he is Carl's friend and wants to make sure he gets Alki in the end. If only Alki returned. One of Us is another one of those that's so bizarre, you can't help but enjoy it. You gotta see it to believe it, and Grandma Taters is probably one of the most lovable yet hilarious villains I've ever seen on this show. I also appreciate its hilariously eerie tone. It plays itself so creepily, but it's also really funny. Who's Your Mommy is the episode where Carl gets pregnant. We all know about this one. It's hysterical. Carl's pregnancy jokes are great because, again, it's not just the cliche jokes, it stretches them out to an unbelievable level. Everything you've heard about this episode is 100% true. It's non-stop hilarity filled with crazy surrealism. And some MPreg stuff that I'm sure some people with that interest would like. No judgment, of course. You like what you like, just don't hurt anybody, okay? When I think of an episode that makes the most out of its simple premise, I think of Sleepless in Retroville. From the very first second to the very last second, this one is non-stop hilarity. It tackles every kind of joke you could ever think of. Every single person in the main cast, even Jimmy's parents, get something great to do. Everyone has something going on, and they jam lightning-fast jokes, every single one of them gut-bustingly hilarious, into 11 minutes. It even has a strange, surreal joke of an ending, which I can't get enough of. all throughout. And what more could you want in a Jimmy Neutron episode? How's about a non-stop hilarity episode that also has political satire? Jimmy for President is exactly that. Basically, that's all I can say about it. It's got slap, 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 clap, clap, clap. Yeah, that alone makes it worth it. But it's got some commentary on how our political system works, with the bribery, the blackmail, the indecisive voter, the guy who's way behind and then uses gimmicks to come back. Something that you may or may not know about me is that I'm a political major, so this episode, especially now that I'm an adult, really resonates with me, and I love it. Men at Work, it's the meme, the myth, the legend, and it's every bit as good as everyone's been telling you. There's more to it than Big McThankies from McSpankies or sodium chloride though. There's the Taco Shack, that's great. Jimmy in the burger costume, that's also amazing. Carl wanting to be a belly dancer. Everything in this episode is non-stop amazingness. It's the same level of humor as Sleepless in Retroville or Jimmy for President, but it goes on for 22 minutes. It doesn't drag or linger either. It constantly ups the ante, getting funnier and funnier as the episode goes on. It's deserving of its meme status, believe me. Now we're in the top 3. Return of the Nanobots is a legendary episode. Everyone knows about it. Endless pie, delete, delete, delete. We need to delete everyone. Let's start with the French. Llamagram. All of Jimmy Neutron's best one-liners seem to come from this one. It also has some good character moments for Hugh, showing that, yeah, he wants some private time, but it's nowhere near as good as us time. The nanobots are on their A-game, showing exactly why everyone loves them. Not to mention that it has a strong sense of urgency, all while still being a funny comedy. Return of the Nanobots is the pinnacle of Jimmy Neutron's story-based episodes. I just wish some of the other story-based ones would have been more like it, just saying. Wanna know what makes the Mighty Weezers so good? All I need to do is tell you the story. Jimmy goes over to Carl's for the weekend. And that's all you need to know. We all know how weird Carl is, with him kind of being a man-child even though he is a child. You know what I mean. Him having his weird allergies and food preferences and hobbies. Well, imagine that, but times 3, and then they get superpowers. Everything in this is spectacular, and there's a Burning Man reference. A Burning Man reference in a kid's show. I did not expect that. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the best episode of Jimmy Neutron is Out Darn Spotlight. Not only does every single joke in this 22-minute extravaganza work, but it works phenomenally well. Every single joke is laugh out loud hilarious. And there's multiple types of jokes here. There's wordplay. There's subversion with Bulby doing his amazing monologue but then it not impressing Willoughby. There's jokes based off of people doing plays. As someone who's been in a lot of stage productions, I can tell you that everything that can go wrong goes wrong in here. People forget lines, people aren't ready for their cues, special effects go wrong, someone's trying way too hard to steal the show. And if you're a fan of old classic literature, then this episode's right up your alley. Shakespeare references galore. The Macbeth in Space play is filled with a bunch of plays that are not Macbeth. There's lines from everything in there. Out Darn Spotlight contains everything good about Jimmy Neutron. The amazing humor, the well thought out characters, the well crafted story. Right from the moment I began making this list, I knew Out Darn Spotlight would be at number 1, because it's undeniably the best episode of Jimmy Neutron ever. And that's Jimmy Neutron, all episodes ranked. There was going to be a 4th season coming along that was going to take the show in a different direction. It was going to be a lot more serious and have story elements. And I'm glad Jimmy Neutron got canceled, because not only did I not like any of the stuff that they pitched, but I saw some of the scripts that they had written, and oh man, drier than the Gobi Desert and way too soap opera-y. It was gonna turn Jimmy Neutron into As Told by Ginger. As Told by Ginger is a good show and all, but that's not what I want Jimmy Neutron to be. Season 3 already kind of went downhill. What is it with Season 3 and always being the turning point for shows like this? Anyways, for once, I'm actually happy that a show I liked got canned, because it didn't go too far downhill. Season 3 may have been a little bit of a step down, but it was still Jimmy Neutron. It still tried. Jimmy Neutron wasn't a perfect show. After all, it did have about 4, maybe 5 mess-ups. But when it got good, it was fantastic. And it's way better when you're an adult. By all means, stop watching the video now and go check this show out. It needs the attention. So folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you think of it? What'd you think of the list? Comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. What are you still doing here? I told you to go leave. I'm not even gonna say I'll see you guys next time, because you're supposed to be watching Jimmy Neutron right now. What are you doing here?